James is a good dude. Well, that's where I met you, Jeremy, out at CMS.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually,
We've
a couple times, right?
couple times. Yeah, you bought a pedal from me the first time we
I
met.
did.
Yeah.
Ocean's 11.
I'm sure it hasn't left the rig. You've used it on every recording since, right?
Every recording when I still owned it.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Did you gift it?
What's that?
Did you gift it?
I don't know if I did or not. You gave me a good deal on it, though. I do remember.
Nothing. Good. And yeah, last year we actually got to hang out for a bit.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I was thumbing through all the pictures I have of you you on stage with Phil.
Oh man,
what a thrill that was.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. And Phil and I traveled together in 1994 through about 90, almost 96. I was the band leader for Twilight Paris back then, and and Phil was the opening artist. I mean, I would call it more of a co-build than opening. Phil went first, basically. But
right.
So every night the band was on call. If Phil decided he wanted to jam with the band that night, we had probably 7 to 10 songs, I can't remember exactly, ready to go, because Phil is very spontaneous, and he might at the drop of a hat go, "Come on, band." So you couldn't be back in the green room or on the bus hanging out during Phil's set, because he might call you to come up and play. So but the good thing about that was every night, regardless if we got to play or not, you would watch Phil Keaggy play, and every night was a new adventure, So it was kind of a little bit of a reunion for us that last CMS last year, because we, whenever I would play for Phil, it would be completely backup, and Phil would do all the solos. But this time last year, it was fun that Phil kind of looked at me and goes, "Go for it." And I was like, okay.
Go for what?
I don't know what I'm going for. So it was kind of cool. It was fun.
Yeah, there's some cool tunes. I have some ones I haven't heard him play, or haven't seen. I haven't seen him actually play electric, because it was probably 8 or 10 year gap between when first few times I saw him and last year at CMS, and he was so much of an acoustic guy with his looping. It was awesome to see him just tear it up on an electric guitar.
Oh no, it was fun. I see Mikey Payne.
Mike's here. Hello.
He's getting his stuff dialed in. I can tell.
He is. That's concentration right there.
Hey man, we'll talk about that PRS that he has right there when he gets logged in. But that's an important guitar for me. Yeah.
I got some guitar from you.
Yeah, my little acoustic.
Yeah.
I love this acoustic. It's an SE Parlor. Tonare. I don't know.
Yeah, the little parlors are, that's a great size.
These are great. I've used this on several projects, specifically when they want something that's not quite as, dreadnoughty sounding. It's a little more focused in the mid range, but they sound great in a track, and they're fun just to hang out and write on. I mean, so
yeah.
Michael's working on. I could tell.
He is.
Hey, so
he needs the tech support. We need to fly somebody down there and hook him up. I think he's talking smack about you, Dave. I don't know.
He probably is.
Are you good at lip reading?
Michael, jump on your phone for your audio. I see all the folks down there in the attendees, so I'm texting. I like it. have a tuner in my room that's always on 24/7. When I walk into my room.
Oh.
Hello. Check
Ooh.
1 2.
Michael!
Hello. Can you hear me?
Boom.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mikey.
Techie, baby, techie.
You got to be techie in this day and age.
Man, I'm
All
telling
right.
you.
It's like being on a session, man, and your gear is not working. You're like, it worked yesterday when I was tracking.
It's so true, bro.
Would you wheel the, like, I know the Steve Lukather refrigerator rack rig?
Oh.
Was that a thing that you ever?
Oh, tell the story and I'll tell you.
Ask Dave. He's
apparently Steve Lukather was famous or infamous for having like 2 refrigerator racks of gear plus all of his amps and all that other stuff. And for those 80s sessions where that was the thing, I can imagine one piece of rack gears gets half unplugged or whatever, and you're going through. I watched the band Living Color.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Vernon Reid.
I got to see them once, and we were right up. We were like on the stage, on top of the stage, and song number 1. If you've ever seen Vernon Reid's pedal board, it's probably 50, 60 pedals. And song number 1, Corey Glover does some like pose with the mic stand, and it slips out of his hand and falls across the pedals.
Oh.
And the whole rest of the song, Vernon Reid and his tech are over there just kind of shrugging at each other like, I don't know which one it hit. And they finally figured it out. But yeah, that tech support seems to be necessary no matter what you're running. Analog gear, digital zoom, no matter what.
I was like that too, man. I went and had a pedal board wired. It was 4 of the Line 6 pedals that just came out, and it was $2,000 to get that wired. And I was like, what am I doing? But the guy now in town, if you get something done, it's XTS, Greg and Barry.
That's right.
Exact Tone Solutions, done, fair. I've got a board that they wired last year, and Mike can attest to this. I am the worst with, getting a board wired up and then 2 months later going, I want to change it, and just ripping through it. Well, he built me a board that's kind of the center, main board. And then if I get crazy and I want to add something, he's got insert points where I can add new pedals in. So I'm not ripping this board up. And this board, you can't see it's down here now.
Yeah.
Is over a year old, and I have not touched it since they wired it. It has not failed me once. And so I love those guys at the old Exact Tone folks. So
let's get to some of this. And if you are attending and watching us jump through the hoops of Zoom tech fixes here, hopefully we'll have a good conversation here with 2 and soon to be 3 Nashville studio guitarists. If you've got a question, post it in the chat. We have a moderator who is watching the chat, so just type your question and hit send, and somebody will see that, and we'll voice that question for our guests. Keep the questions, please, to a question for them about hopefully PRS guitars. Thankfully, PRS is helping promote and sponsor this event, and so there you can see these guys are holding some lovely examples of Paul Reed Smith guitars. So if you got some questions about their studios, their gear, some sessions, we do have a representative from Paul Reed Smith on the call, but if you've got a question kind of specifically regarding Paul Reed Smith stuff, build times, lead times, future products, current products, color choices, and this, that, and the other, we are always available. Just hit us up off our website or give us a call, and we can handle that question. But our panelists here, Dave Cleveland and Mr. Mike Payne, and soon to be Kelly Beck is coming. These 3 guys won't always be available, so keep those questions to something for them on the gear they use and how they do it, and maybe we'll get a guitar lesson out of these guys while we're watching. So Dave, can you give us maybe a 30-second who you are and what you do. And
Yeah. So I'm Dave Cleveland, and I have been in Nashville since 1990, which is 30 years. I was 3 years old when I moved here. I was a monster at 3. No, a little older than that. But I came to town, and my first like kind of real intro into the world here was through an artist named Twyla Paris. And I was her band leader for a couple years. And then I was hired by Stephen Curtis Chapman and went out and did the Great Adventure Tour, and, you know, worked with him for several years, and still work with him on different things. He's a friend. And as you find in this business, when you become friends with people and they like what you do and they like hanging out with you, then, you know, that's a forever thing. It's not just, well, I just need this gig, and, you know, I'll see you after you stop writing the checks, I'm out of here. That's not how it is. It's like you become involved in people's lives, and you make music, and I think the music is better for it because of the friendships that you build. Anyway, I stopped touring in 2000. That was my last big tour. That was Crystal Lewis and Avalon. And at that point, I was really, really busy touring, but started having some kids and just felt like it was time to stay home. So with the same leap that we made to come to Nashville, we made a leap to not tour anymore and just do session work. And fortunately, the timing worked out well for me. I had a lot of people that had known me from touring and started spreading my name around town. And so next thing you know, I'm playing on records every day. And it really has not slowed down in 20 years for me, thankfully. And so, you know, just doing this every day, making records. And it's a little different now with having a home studio and the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, music finds a way. Did Jeff Goldblum say that in one of the Jurassic Park? But anyway, the music keeps going, you know, and people still need music. And thankfully, I feel like I still have something to offer. And so here I am. And segue to my good friend, Mike Payne, unless you have something specifically.
No, that was great. Thank you. We'll circle back, but we'll give Mike his spotlight in the.
Yeah.
Mikey.
So, yeah, I grew up, I'm an Illinois boy, came to Nashville late 90s, started kicking around town, finding road gigs and things, anything I could play and anything I could do, kind of early 2000s. Connected with some songwriters, actually, let me, before I get there, I played with, I did some road work, travel work with the Paul Coleman Trio was a group that I went out with years ago. It was that was sort of my first like official decent gig, and a group from Australia, and they were super cool, and we played a ton of shows. That was just a really good experience for me. Through that experience, I met a guy named Matthew West, and Matthew, we hit it off, and I toured with him for almost 5 years. And in late 2009, I decided it was time to, I had started to get some work, doing work during the week. So I would go out with Matthew and do like a weekend's worth of shows, maybe a Friday, Saturday. Who's that in the background there?
That is our photobomb specialist.
Okay, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take an ear off so I can hear myself talk. But so try to wrap this up quick. But like I would go out with Matthew on the weekends, but then during the week, I would be, hey, can you come play on this demo? Or I wasn't really playing on records or anything like that yet, but just sort of helping people out with songwriting demos and that kind of thing. And I think it was, I kept traveling for a long time, and it wasn't until about the fall of 2009 is when he was about ready to set out on a big tour, and it was going to kind of be pretty intense. And it was kind of the time I thought, man, I'm going to put somebody else in there and give somebody else a shot at enjoying that tour. So, so I can kind of keep doing, saying yes to more sessions. And, so that's how that worked out for me. And I'm grateful to have had that opportunity, and to be in a position to be able to do that. So actually I met Dave probably maybe just before that. I got hired to do a big project for a company called Lifeway here in Nashville. And I played on Dave did more than I did, but I had a opportunity to jump in on that big project. So that was a good shot in the arm for me too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
During that time. So yeah.
I remember hearing Mike play for the first time back on those sessions, and we were working with a producer named Paul Marino. And I was like going, I just loved his tone. I mean, there's some guys that they just naturally have that when they hit the strings of the guitar, you're like going, man, that sounds good. What are you doing? It's beyond, well, I'm using this pedal or this amp or this guitar. It's like, it just happens. It's just like, and Mike's one of those guys. I've always just respected his playing, and his tones specifically is just, second to none. So anyway.
So can I
Dave.
piggyback off of that, Mike? Can you talk for a minute about, because gear is always a part of how you find your tone, but it's like a means to an end. So what are you listening for? What are you looking for when you go to pick up a guitar and start playing the thing, or, reach for the knobs on an amp and start, twiddling away? What are you looking for, and how do you know when you find it?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the guitar first, because I really do think it starts there. I mean, it is your sort of the way you play and technique and things, but having an instrument that feels alive, like that's the only way I can really kind of describe it. But when you pick it up and you hit a big E chord, or just start to play single note lines even, and it feels like the things are resonating well, and there's some life to it, that to me is important. That's something I look for in any.
Before you even plug in?
Yeah, a lot of times,
yeah.
When I go to shops, a lot of the maybe the sales people would encourage me to plug in, and I do a lot of times eventually hit the amp room and plug in, but I'll just kind of start. Before I do that, I'll usually grab maybe half a dozen guitars and just play them acoustically first and see kind of what's speaking to me, and then kind of go from there. So
yeah,
right on.
Yeah, man.
Dave, got any secrets for us on how you get that luscious tone?
That's key. It's like for session stuff, you're always listening to the track and the things surrounding you, and so you want to choose that guitar that you feel like is going to have a fighting chance in the mix. Sometimes you can dial in this beautiful, glorious tone that you think, man, that's the best tone I've ever heard. And then you add synth, and you add drums, and you add bass, and you add background vocals, and you add lead vocal. And then all of a sudden your beautiful tone has been kind of washed away. So it's important that you find those kind of frequencies and those kind of tones that will still live inside of a mix in a track. And so not to plug too hard, but I'm going to. That's why I love this guitar, this 545 PRS, because it just finds a way onto a track. I will say this unapologetically right now, that like I tracked all day yesterday, where the studio provides a lot of guitars, so you don't have to bring a lot of stuff. I will always bring this guitar with me because I can count on it. It stays in tune, and it goes through a range of frequencies and tones that are usable and easily accessible, through the guitar itself. Like Mike was saying, before I even hit an amp, I just feel like I can get so much out of this. So, it's all about using your ear and seeing what you're surrounded with and finding the perfect tone that's going to get into a mix. And also, like Mike and I working a lot together, and I wish you could be in on the discussions that we have after we've listened to a demo and we've got our chart. Mike, you chime in on this too if you want, but
Yeah.
we're always like going, okay, so what are you going to do on this? It's not like, one of us is like, well, I'm just doing whatever I want to do. I don't care what you're doing. It's always about how can we make this song the best with the tones that we can create. And that means if Mike picks up a telly, say, I might pick up a Gretsch, or I might pick up something that's counter what he's doing, so that when the engineer pulls us up left and right in a mix, there's a spot for each of us, and each of us are contributing to that song and making a difference. So that's a big deal to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing about the amp, you asked about the amp settings and things like that. And once you've kind of got the guitar, like Dave's holding the five, that's a 594, right, Dave?
545.
Or that's a 545.
Oh no, 594. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, five.
I'm
yeah,
looking at your guitar, thinking.
Right. No. Yeah. This is the 245.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Whoa.
No, that's all good. But
and scene.
So if Dave's playing the 245, or sorry, the 240, the 594, I might grab like a real single coil telly kind of thing, and maybe drop a lot of bass out of the sound or something, just to get it a little more, just to thin it out or something. For instance, I'm not saying we do that every time, but depending on the track. But yeah, for amp settings, I'll generally go for, I guess it gets referred to a lot as like edge of breakup, but clean-ish to just a little bit of breakup for me is what I like. For most of the stuff that we do, that works really well. And tone settings, I just like to hear a good clear sound. I don't know. Again, It's not like super descriptive. I wish there was a way that I could describe that better, but just a clarity to the tone, so that when I do add an effect or two on top, it retains some articulation, I think.
Yeah,
so
gives the effects something to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So
How much time do you guys have? Like, because it sounds like if you are both hired on a session, you're kind of aware that each other's working on something, and you can communicate a little bit ahead of time. So it's not necessarily like you get sent a track and it's noon and you have until 2 to send something back. You actually have a little bit of time to do, what sort of like, what sense of direction or notes or guidance do you get for, here's what we're looking for on this part. We want something, twinkling arpeggiated, or we need a rock rhythm, and go for it.
Yeah. Well, can I answer that, Mikey?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So and I'm going to answer Danny Oak's question too while I do that.
All right.
So most of the time, if we're working on we do a lot of records that require us to go in and basically reproduce tracks, and they'll be distributed to different venues in different keys. So we might have a song that we'll listen to, say it's in the key of E, but they need the whole track in the key of G for their record. Independent people and companies like Lifeway and Word and Brentwood Benson, people like that will reproduce tracks. So the question's two-part for me. For Danny, let me answer this first. If we're on a regular record date, we will go in and we'll listen down, and yes, we will write a chart. And yes, it's usually a Nashville chart. And we will write that as we hear it. So, as it's going by, 1, 5, 6 minor, 4, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4, 5, chorus, then we'll write the changes out for that. And on a regular record date where you're creating, the producer might have an idea, like you were saying, do an arpeggio thing here, or I need some ethereal guitar, or in the chorus I need a big crunch guitar, in the bridge I need something weird and abstract and different. So you take all that information in from the producer, and then you go out and you create that. On a lot of the dates that Mike and I do for these, we call them print companies, we hear the original. And so Mike and I, within the time we hear that whole song, we have a chart that's usually written out. These charts are not normally number system charts. They're standard, Sibelius or whatever, which is very tricky when you're playing acoustic guitar and the key is G flat and there's no numbers. And they want open strumming, okay. So you have to literally transpose on the fly.
Yeah.
For G flat, you have to go, okay, well, I'm going to play it in D. So I'm going to capo at the 4th fret, and that's going to be my center.
You taught me how to do that, by the way, Dave.
Dude, man.
You did.
It is hard.
I used to always think, I was like, Dave, how is he playing these open strings? And then I asked him one day, he was like, oh, I just do it all transposed in my head. And I'm like, blew my mind, but over the years it's gotten a lot easier.
Yeah.
Dave was the first one that I've ever saw do that, and it's a bold move because you can slip up easily. But he's great at it. He's the best.
It's interesting. Yeah. Reading a chart in G flat but playing in D, and all the things that might mean is
it doesn't get much weirder.
No. And look, it's like, this is not like, well, we got a couple hours, let's figure this out. It's like, by the time Mike and I listen down to a song, we're literally walking out of the control room, talking we're talking as we're going to our areas. Okay, dude, all right, here we go. And we get in there, and the drummer's like, roll click, and here comes click, 1, 2, and we're off to the races. It's not like, we don't have time to sit there and think about, well, what if we, it's like, no, you need to play it like you own it the first time you play it. Now there is some grace. You'll get maybe a couple shots, but most of the time, Mike and I are 1 or 2 takes, we get our part, and then we're on to the next overdub, which we've already kind of put in our category of, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. Mike's doing this, this, and this. So by the time we get done with these 3 passes each, we've got 6 passes of guitars, and all that has taken less than 40 minutes, and we're on to the next song. So that's the kind of pace that we live in and work in. So hope that answered some of Danny's question too.
I have I'm pretty sure, and we can circle back to a story because Mike probably doesn't know that I'm thinking this, but I think the first time I saw somebody do that was Mike. And I believe, I my first trip to Nashville was in 2010 with Holly Starr.
Oh yeah,
and I think you played on a record of hers. We met Rusty Barrington, who produced it, and
wow.
I didn't recognize you until last night. I was kind of thumbing through, like, see who you guys, what websites we could promote of yours, whatever. And I was like flipping through your Instagram, and you had a picture of the rest. I'm like, wait a second, that's why he looks familiar. So I think we met once 10 years ago, and I do believe the first time I watched somebody, they played. Rusty had, like, kind of hacked out a demo of a song with, like, okay, we need to replace this drum loop with real drums. He's tuning up his drums in the next room. And so he would hit play, and everybody would leave the room except one person, and you guys took turns, one pass through the song, charting it out in numbers, make some photocopies, hand it to everybody else. And then he walked in, he's like, okay, I'm kind of thinking like a Michael Jackson thing, and hit record, and you guys went for it. And, and replaced the demo loops and out-of-tune guitars with real stuff. And maybe 2 passes, and to give him 2 takes to work with, and that was it, on to the next song. But that was the first time. The first time that I ever saw that happen was Mike.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
10 years ago.
Holly is, I remember her being from Washington State,
Yep.
right? Like she
Yeah.
her family they're farmers, as I remember, right? They
Yep.
have like onion farms or things like that, or potatoes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that was so fun. Well, nice to see you again.
Yeah.
I'm
Likewise.
glad you brought that up. You
Fun
know,
way to circle back.
one of the great. I'll just take what Dave was talking about and what you're talking about in the session with Holly. I just brag on the PRS guitars again for a second, but one of the great things about what they've done with the design of these guitars is they've made them very stable, and the tuning on them is just absolutely the best. I mean, the best in the business.
Yeah.
You tune them up, they stay in tune, they intonate across the fretboard. It's just, they're so dependable. And when you don't have to think about that kind of stuff, you can make music.
Yes.
And you can play your parts, and you can do your job without having to fuss with all the intonation stuff. And it's hard enough to keep a guitar in tune anyway. They're finicky, right? I mean, and especially here in Nashville, we have a lot of humidity. We have sort of these highs and lows of the studio climate. Could be freezing cold one day and hot the next. And so anyway, that's just really something I've really wanted to highlight about the PRS specifically.
Do you play with some different tuning? So it sounds like, in ways of transposing, sometimes on the fly. Are you mostly in standard tuning, or do you play with drop D here and a Nashville tuning there and an open tuning here, and kind of play with that as you're going too?
Dave, what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on the song, I find myself like on rock stuff, especially if it's like in E flat or D, where I'll do just a standard drop the E down to a D note, just so you get that. It actually works good in country too. But on acoustic, I have guitars that are the Nashville tuning, which is basically it's a 12-string set of strings without the lower strings. It's all of the upper strings. So basically you have an octave from the low E all the way up until the B string, and then the B and the E string on the top are normal. So that's the Nashville kind of thing, where it's a real chimey, beautiful tone. So I have one of those sitting around, and then I have a guitar that I have acoustic guitar that I have electric light strings on, that I tune up a minor third, so that when I play a G chord, it's actually a B flat chord, which is a very cool. If you haven't tried that, that is a great way to stack acoustics with that sounding guitar. And so anyway, it depends.
Use a different gauge of string for that?
I do. It's 9 through 42. It's extra light.
Oh, wow.
It's extra light electric strings. And it really, Mike's seen that guitar. He might have a guitar like that too, but it's
don't actually. That's a really good trick, and I've seen you do it before, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. It's especially if you just say if a song is in the key of D. Well, I can capo up at the 4th fret, and that becomes D. So if I capo 4. Sorry, where's my PRS acoustic? I won't do it, but just imagine capoing here at the 4th fret, and now instead of that being B, it's D up here. It sounds up there, but on a regular acoustic, it's hard to capo way up the neck.
Yeah.
So by having lighter strings and electric strings and tuning them up higher, there's more sparkle and more shimmer. And so I love to, especially on different pop tracks or country pop tracks, do a shimmer acoustic pass, which would be 2 of those guys left and right, stacked.
Did you learn that trick somewhere, or is that a Dave Cleveland original?
Okay, so I got to give credit where credit's due. I learned that from a guitarist who played on a ton of country stuff back in the day, named John Willis. And you know who I'm talking about, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
John Willis, he is he showed me that trick and some other things just with Ganjo and things like that. And man, it changed my world, because I was like, just being able to do that and have a guitar that is like automatically ready to go is brilliant. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
John Willis, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and I like you. I do the drop D thing, Dave, and then a lot of times I've got a telly that I have a Keith Richards tuning, the open G tuning. I use that a good bit, especially on the country stuff. It seems like that really comes in handy there. I've got a high strung. I'm trying to think of what else that I might use. Sometimes I'll tune a guitar just one whole step down. Dave talked about tuning up a minor third, but for electric, I remember hearing this on a Sheryl Crow record years ago, and I thought it sounded really cool. I couldn't place the tuning, and it turns out that they just tuned down a whole step and played out of, I think, sometimes, we play in keys like C major, and C major for a rock song doesn't always sound great. They're just the way that the chords kind of fall on the guitar don't always sound that great.
Yeah.
So when you tune down a whole step, you can play out of D in this instance, and you get those tougher, beefier chord shapes that sound better for rock and roll. That's something that I, do a fair bit of as well. Hey, Kelly.
Kelly.
Hello.
Woohoo! Can you hear me?
Joining.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, woohoo. Good to be
buddy.
here. Sorry I'm
Right
late.
on.
No, man.
Man.
It's good to see ya.
Here
Hey,
you were
what you-
working, so
What you playing, Kelly?
what you got?
I got this old 594.
Woo!
Double cut.
Yes, yeah, double cut.
Nice.
Man, it's sweet.
I bet you it
Well,
sounds
made-
extra sweet in your hands.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know about that. Thank you, though.
Jeremie, I know you probably researched Kelly a little bit too, but man, if you want to go to war in a country song at all, take Kelly back with you. You
Oh,
don't
man.
want to have him with you. He can do anything, which is scary. That's the same with Mike too. A lot of the guys in Nashville are so talented, but I've been on some things where Kelly digs in, and he's a very humble guy, but he can completely destroy the chicken picking thing.
I got hooked on some YouTube videos of yours last night. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. We do have a couple of attendee questions. I did want to ask because we've now pointed out 2594s and a 245. So we've got Kelly, you ruined the streak with the double cut here, but like the single cut shorter scale, for those of us that aren't in Nashville, we sort of the stereotype we think of is like, country and Christian music, like full stop,
Right.
Tellys and Gretches, full stop. So what's up with these short scale, PRS guitars filling this gap or being the go-to instrument these days? It seems, if it's not a relatively recent thing in the last, decade or so, how has it flown under the radar? And if it is kind of building momentum to bring PRSs to sessions when you wouldn't have 10 years ago, what is it? What is it about the sound that's finding its place now?
I'll
for me,
I'll defer to either.
Yeah.
Go, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
For me, I've always been a sort of a Fender man and loved the necks and everything on Fender, and was sort of scared, to be honest. I mean, the first guitar my mom bought me, actually, after I sort of learned from a borrowed guitar from church, was a custom Les Paul. But then once I got a Fender in my hand, it just felt like it felt better for my little small hands. And I was, to be honest, sort of afraid of the big baseball neck that I assumed that they had. But man, when I got this 594, I mean, it's like, as soon as I grabbed on it, it's like home. And the clarity on the bottom end is just amazing. The top end for solos and stuff is just something I tried to get, I think now looking back with EQ, that's just here automatically. So, I mean, that's my history as far as trying to get into the PRS world. That's basically how I got here, was, you know, and listening to guys like Dave, you know, play he's just such an amazing player, and the tone was just always immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's just an awesome guitar. It's really made me practice a lot at the house when normally I would just set it over to the side. And we're always, as session guys, we're always looking for that next thing to, you know, get us to take it to the next level. And this guitar for me has been that thing, you know.
Yeah, I worked with Kelly the other day, and I noticed, you know, he was excited about this guitar. I'm like, man, I got to check it out. And, you know, I love it. And he's had a guitar, I won't mention what it is, and he knows probably what I'm talking about, but that had been his go-to guitar for a long time. And he was like going, I think I found a new go-to guitar. And exactly what he was saying, it's, I mean, more than you know, that it's the scale length, it's all about that clarity and that musicality that's coming out of it. And for all of us, it's all about, we know what we're trying to get in our head when we're going for something. Just give us something that makes it easier to get there.
Oh yeah.
Stays in tune. You know, that's the key. And I think that's why you're seeing a surge of PRS guitars in the Nashville world, because it's just, they're doing it right. So
awesome stuff. Anything to add, Mike?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just agreeing with Kelly. I think the clarity on the low end is definitely, and it's a good thing. And look, he's got another one in this end too. Look at that. But yeah, what can I add to that? I think my video.
How long have you been playing your 245
or something? I don't know. Let's see. This is an 09. I got this in the spring of 09. And I remember my friend, let's see. Yeah, so I hooked up with Jack Higginbotham and and Bev Fowler. And I was touring with Matthew Webb at the time, and I really needed, you know, it's okay. So here's the thing, right? So we would watch DVDs a lot of times on the tour buses, and we had this DVD of Matchbox 20, okay, from back around 07. And when I saw Kyle Cook playing his, I think it was a 245, when I saw him playing his single cut all over that record and all over that live DVD, and it just, man, that guitar really spoke. And it was just such a good looking guitar too. That's when I was like, oh man, I want one of those, you know. I want one of those. Those are cool. And so I was fortunate enough to meet and I'm trying to place the guy that was the guy that plays guitar for Dave. You might be able to help me out with this. Guy plays guitar for Toby Mac. Do you remember him?
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah, super good guy. I'm drawing a blank, but he's a beautiful guy, and he introduced me to Jack, and I was able to get this guitar. But it all kind of happened all at the same time. I saw Kyle playing his, and then I got one. But I've just loved it. It's a really balanced guitar. The weight of it, I've traveled with it a ton. Stays in tune like a champ. Even the tuning keys. The gear ratio on the keys is really nice. You can a lot of times on these old Kluson style keys, they kind of have a catch in them almost, like where they don't, but whatever they did on the design of these tuning keys is, for me, it works better than a lot of the older style stuff. So yeah. It's a great marriage between vintage and modern to me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I think about,
can you guys talk? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just thinking when they were talking, you know, I watched the Tim Pierce video with Howard Leese, and he had the old, you know, 59 Les Paul and a 58 Les Paul, and then he had the new 594, and they were, every time they played the 594, it was like, it was everything that the older Les Paul, I know people are going to probably get hate mail, but everything the Les Paul was wanting to be, and Paul had figured it out. And so it's like, why take vintage guitars out? And a lot of time, I mean, we've all had vintage guitars, and sometimes they're at the pace that we were describing, that we have to move in sessions. I don't have time for an old cool vintage guitar that won't stay in tune, because, you know, at the end of the day, in the track, if it's out of tune, it's out of tune. And, you know, you can't put in the liner note, well, hey, he played this 52 Telly on this track. Sorry, it's out of tune a little bit.
Can't you just auto tune the A string and
Let's do that. But I love old vintage guitars. I've got vintage guitars. I love them, but I'm a blue collar working guitar player. I need stuff to be in tune and make it easier for me to be able to access all the beautiful tones that I love from the past. And I mean, I've owned a 1958 Les Paul Gold Top, and this 594 is equally satisfying to me, and it stays in tune, and I can take it on a daily basis to every session I go to. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Can you guys, I'll pause real quick. It sounds like a lot of the questions as we're chatting are getting some answers chimed in the chat. So hopefully if you're attending, you can see the answer to your question without us. I hope you're not feeling skipped. It sounds like the chat is answering some of those questions we've answered. Yeah, cool, awesome.
And it is Tim Rosenau, so thank you, Jeannie.
Yeah, Tim,
I was just the name just came to me, so thanks for chiming in too on that. That's awesome.
Great. Can you guys take us through maybe the rest of your rig a little bit, at least maybe a starting point? You know, I'm sure that every session is different, but like Dave, you sent me a picture maybe I don't know, 6-8 months ago of like my new favorite pedal, and it's on my board, and it's just I never turn it off. Do you have like, you know, a walkthrough of, you know, I've got this, you know, these guitars that I take, a couple of pedals, and this is my go-to amp, and then this is my starting point for you know, for a session.
And like I say, that changes, but I will say, I'll just I like this pedal right here.
Old BSM.
It's an old Treble Booster, and
that's the one.
I keep it with me everywhere I go, because if I can just go through an amp, but I just need to give it a little more, you know, hair on it, this is the perfect pedal. And it also helps the guitar stay clean if you have an amp cranked. Anyway, that's one of my favorite pedals. It just so happened to be sitting here next to me. But I always think in terms of food groups. You know, I need my booster food group. I need my compression food. I need my distortion, overdrive, and then I need what we call a lot of times in Nashville is our GAC stuff. You know, which would be, you know, weird stuff, tremoloes, phase, flanger, all that stuff. And most of the time I like to get that from, say, like, because it takes up a lot of real estate on your board if you have all analog versions of flangers and all that stuff. So I like to tap into some kind of a high-end multi-effects thing that has all those kind of inside of it, you know, Swiss Army knife kind of thing. Oh, I need to have this kind of tremolo quickly. So boom, there it is, you know. Delays and reverbs. I really like, I'm looking down all my pedals. Oh, I tell you what I love, and those guys will attest. I love fuzz pedals. I don't know.
I'm an addict myself, so show me some stuff. Yeah.
Fuzz. There's fuzz all over up here. So I like fuzz pedals. So it's just, and I like the Beatles. Sorry, he fell. you know, it's just having those. I just, like I said, I think in food groups, I need to have these different things. And so anyway, I love Tyler amps. Those Mike and Kelly know I love Tyler amps. The go-to amp for me is usually the Tyler JT14. It's a recreation of a 64 Princeton reverb. It just takes pedals well. It's not too loud for most of the things, and good clarity. So I'll stop there because I could go on for 3 hours.
Kelly,
Awesome.
you've got your board in front of you. What are you using today, man?
Yeah. What did you just use?
Yeah, Kelly.
Well, this winded up being a Kemper morning. You know, it's different all the time. I actually been going back to the amps though. It's so funny. I don't ever miss my amps when I'm playing through the Kemper, but as soon as I plug into, like, I'd got my Clubman 35 matchless out the other day, and as soon as I hit a big A chord, I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I really did miss my amps. So yeah, and I just got a new pedal. I say new pedal, it's probably a year old, but the Strymon Volante.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just love,
Tape echo.
I love, yeah, I just love those pedals when you plug in, you know, even the presets. Just sounds like you just maybe need to tweak just a tiny bit. And that's just one of those pedals to me. And it's MIDI capable, you know, for my switcher and everything. So that's the new thing on the board. There, you know, and I've got sort of some of the typical stuff, OCD and some a box of rocks. The H9, you know, stuff like that. The Timeline. I love all the Strymon stuff. Seems like everything they come out with. I know they got a new reverb that looks a little complicated to me, but some of the sounds seem to be there. So it might be one of those you could just use some presets. But man, my favorite new toy, of course, is this new PRS. And it just, like Dave said, it's my new go-to guitar. And I've had the other blue guitar for 25 years, and it's always been the first thing I reach for. But the new 594, man, and there's just so much you can do with it. I mean, you can roll back the tone a little bit on the bridge pickup, and just it's unlimitless, or it's unlimitless. Just amazing.
You know,
I'm so glad to have it in our arsenal now. And I do have a baritone PRS too that I love, and I've had that, gosh, for probably 7 or 8 years.
Oh yeah.
And I was sold on PRS when I played that. I mean, it just felt like butter. It stayed in tune. Just the tone of it. You can split the coils. It's great guitar.
That's cool, Kelly. So that's your baritone guitar that you go to most of the time.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that's cool.
I do have a Jerry Jones 6-string bass that I like to go to sometimes too. But
Cool.
But the PRS rocks.
Yeah, man. That's
I
cool.
agree. I agree, Kelly. I've got one of those, the PRS berries, and I love it. I'll use it all the time.
Yeah.
It's a great instrument. So.
It's a good time to be a guitar player in this world, I think.
It is, man.
With all the technology and man, I just love Paul Reed-Smith. I mean, I've watched some of his interviews with different guys, and a guy that's such a genius that still, you can tell he's still so into what he does with these guitars. And man, it shows. The playability is just immaculate. I mean, it's, I got to say, I didn't know if I was going to say it or not, but this is my favorite guitar I've ever had.
Wow, man.
Wow. That's impressive. But yeah, I met Paul a couple of times, and it is quite amazing to see somebody who can create an instrument like this that seems flawless, and a couple years later he's like, okay, so here's my list of improvements.
All right.
On it. And and he's still got the passion for trying to make perfect better somehow. Mike, what are you running through?
Let's see. Well,
hold on, I need to get my notebook out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, me too.
I already have mine. I'm ready.
No surprises. I don't think. I'm running into a fuzz, Dave. You'll be proud.
Yes.
It's kind of one of those tone bender style fuzz pedals. The sort of. I think it's silicon transistors maybe in this one, and then I follow that up with a compressor. Right now I'm using the XTS. Big shout out to those guys. I need one of those horns like they have on that pedal show. Right?
All right, yeah.
So Barry and the cats have the Fermata compressor, they call it, and I think it's an optical style. I like that. It's a little more hi-fi sounding to me than like the old school Ross pedals, but the Ross are great for like that sort of country old school sound.
Yeah, it's a classic.
The chicken picking thing. I mean, Kelly knows how to get that tone better than anybody. And then I have a boost pedal, actually a couple boost pedals kind of in a row. Now that I think of it, I've got the old exotic RC boost, which they still make, but they have I think they've changed it now. It's like a double. It has 2 buttons on it now. And then I'm running into another boost called a Timmy, and that just is a little bit. It almost sounds to me like the RC, only a little different. And I like both those pedals because I can change the EQing on them. So I'll get the treble and the bass sort of contoured a bit on it. And
you
then
stack them?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll run them both together and stack. The RC seems to stack well. It seems to stack well with just about everything I've thrown at it. And then I'm running into a Greer Lightspeed right now is kind of my, I guess it's, I don't know. I haven't owned a ton of those kind of Marshall in a box pedals, but yeah, there you go, Dave. But
you got it.
Greer seems to have a nice sort of lower mid type thing, but with still some top to it. I don't know. It's hard to describe these things, but it's working. It's been working for me. And then I've got a small, I like Kelly and Dave. I tend to favor like the Swiss Army knife type pedals for my modulation. So I've got an old M5 on my board right now where I can just quickly get to just about anything you want. And then let's see. I've got I like again like the aforementioned delays and stuff. The Strymon stuff has been working really well for me for the last several years. The timeline, and I have a Flint on my board as well right now that I like. I like all the verbs in that Flint, and the tremolo is really nice too. And so and you've got your favorite switch, which is a nice feature on that one too. But and that's pretty much it. I mean, so again, it's kind of the food groups type approach.
I see a Morgan amp behind you. Is that your kind of go-to?
Yeah, that is one of my go-tos. That's an amp that back when Joe was building amps in his garage 11 years ago or something, I bought that from him, and it's an RCA 35 is what that is.
Okay.
So it'll run on like 6. I think I've got 6 L6s in it right now, but you can drop just about any power tube in it, and it'll kind of take on some different characteristics. It's a little Marshall. It's a little bit of Marshall flavor, at least to my ears. Fender meets Marshall, something like that.
Nice. Thank you. Dave, you had mentioned Tim Pierce video. One of the things that surprised me in another video of his was how often he'll like print delay to a track. And I always thought of, like, in my experience recording stuff, we tend to record stuff dry and add ambience and delay, reverb, all that sort of thing after the fact. But it seems like you guys actually, for the most part, print the signal chain straight to.
Oh yeah, I mean you'll, especially in a lot of the modern worship stuff you end up playing on, there is a lot of effect on the guitar, and if you can accomplish the sound, here's one thing that helps. A lot of times the tracking engineer will also mix the project, so then you can really find that balance of how much delay and reverb and stuff you want on it's almost like he's getting a sound with you. And because there's something about running delays and verbs into an amp and how they sound as opposed to after the amp. And so, so I think most guys are cool with that now. Although a lot of times at the house, if I want to do a big stereo pass, I'll mic up my amp and then use Valhalla or some of those things to create the atmosphere that I want to get. But most guys, they're fine with printing all those effects. What do you guys think on that?
I mean, I tend to think of it in two categories. If I'm tracking at the house, similar to what Dave was just saying, but if I'm at my place, just depending on the song, sometimes I'll run all the delays in front of the amp, and sometimes maybe there'll be a particular track that I'll decide that it would sound really nice to have a wide stereo type effect, and so I'll get that in the box with whatever plugin. I mean, there's so many great plugins these days. So it's just a matter of, what you want to use there. But I don't know, I guess for most of the stuff we track out in the field, I'll say, I'm just running all the delays and all the effects in front of the amp because I don't have that kind of control on the back end. And if I'm cutting dry, then it might get misinterpreted. You know what I'm saying? So then I'll run a lot of effects and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it always depends on the engineer, I think. And same as y'all, if I'm at home, it seems like I have a little more control. I can send them a dry signal and process. But seems like back in the day, it was harder to run big verbs, especially. Yeah. I mean, the engineers definitely wanted control of that, but seems like everybody's come around to, especially like spring reverbs and stuff too. It's such a personal choice. I might have a different type of spring reverb than Dave or Mike, and if an engineer puts it on post, and then we're all going to sort of sound the same as far as the verb. But
that's a good point.
I've really noticed engineers have come around, and it's a control thing, not in a bad way. Sometimes they need to be in control, but sometimes it's just part of our sound. Please take it. It's part of our sound.
Here's our offering for you.
Yes.
Awesome. Do you guys have time for a couple more questions before we go? I had to mask up. I actually set up out on our sales floor, and now we're open. So
okay, no worries.
Well, it's my excuse to be able to dress like a ninja. But can you still hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got a couple more minutes.
Sure.
Before we go, can you maybe tell us a little bit about where people can find some more information about each of you? I know there's some YouTube channels or lessons or places we can learn. You, Mike, you were working at least with maybe a camp or something,
That's right. I was doing some teaching. There's a camp. I think they have multiple locations now, but in Nashville called Camp Electric. It's been a number of years ago now that actually taught there, but that's a summer camp for musicians. And I think it's primarily Christian based or Christian bands kind of thing, like they put it on and things like that. But I don't have a YouTube channel yet, although that sounds like a lot of fun and probably a lot of work. But I don't know, maybe some teaching could be in the future for me, but if they want to, I don't even know if I have a proper website. I had one for a while and then I took it down and I don't think there's anything up for me right now, but you can go to allmusic.com and see kind of what I've been up to. It's not a perfect list of everything I've worked on, but there's a good number of records listed there. And, that's about it for now. there.
So yeah, campoelectric.com is one place people can find you, and then the All Music. Dave, I know you've got davecleveland.com. You can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So over the years, I've had people ask me if I do private lessons, and I really haven't. It's just doing sessions is a full-time thing. I mean, it takes a lot of your energy, but I've kind of partnered up with a guy, Larry Prostick, who's a great video kind of website guy, and he's kind of running that whole thing for me now. And so every once in a while, I just show up and I'll teach some lessons online so that it streams and people can access it that way. So I think we've got 41 lessons up in a series called Essential Guitar. Then we've got a beginner program, and then we've got lots of jam videos, where I teach you a lick and then provide a track that you can jam over it. So, but that's at davecleveland.com, and should be loading that up with more data soon, hopefully.
Some excellent photos of some gorgeous PRS guitars on there.
Yes. Yeah.
And Kelly, you've got a YouTube channel?
Yes, sir. I believe
right.
it's Kelly Back at youtube.com, or you can go to kellyback.com.
Okay, awesome.
And a few lessons on there, some different things. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on how to get in the music business, so I did one on how to get out. My wife really helped me do a lot of the YouTube videos, and she did a great job editing. And I want to shout out to Sarah, and she's probably watching at home. Love you, sweetheart, and thank you for everything you do.
Wow.
And hopefully we'll have some more content. I'm always trying to put new stuff on there. So
awesome.
There you go.
A couple of things I saw pop up in the chat. Mike had mentioned Bev. Bev is
yeah, hi Bev.
Was watching, so she says hello. And
hello.
I know not everybody is plugged in,
howdy.
We've had some requests to actually hear some of your gear. So to the extent that you can we hear some sounds?
Yeah, totally.
I don't have I have acoustic.
I think
all I have is what you're hearing right there.
Well, maybe we can start with Kelly, so we can hear the magic just unplugged, and how resonant these things are without plugging them in. Hear that new parlor from Dave, and then hear a full rig from Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second. I want to watch Kelly. What is he doing?
Yeah.
All right, go Kelly.
Let me get my strap.
I'm gonna count you guys in, and we'll just you guys will all jam, and don't worry at all about the latency or anything. It'll sound fine.
Yeah, we can fix it all in the mix.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and you can reamp all this, and it can be
for
great.
sure. Absolutely, we'll do.
Woo! I wish I could hear that full volume.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's playing some working man blues.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave.
Everybody at home, we're all turning our volume up right now so we can.
I know, it's like, what the heck? There you go.
Well done.
Yeah.
Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Sound. Yeah.
Woo!
Beautiful.
Man.
PRS.
What is that, Dave? What is that?
The PRS Parlor.
It's the PRS Parlor.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love this guitar. It's small body, and it just fits
Looks
in the
great.
track, especially if you're.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's
You
got
know, that reminds me of those old like Sean Colvin records from the 90s when they're using those small bodied
yeah,
acoustics for yeah.
that's it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, they mic up great too, and the price point is crazy.
Yeah, that sounds great, Dave.
Anyway,
That's sweet.
You're gonna have to show me some of those chords you were playing.
I just made them up. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
So
Let's hear, Mikey, are you plugged in?
I am. Can you guys hear? I guess maybe you can hear this.
Woo!
Yes.
Oh
I-
yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just looked down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Just a little overdrive.
That's good tone there,
That
son.
sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Not much in my world sounds worse than Zoom, and that sounded great. So
Oh, good.
I can only imagine.
What kind of guitar is that?
This is the PRS 245,
Sweet.
and Jeremie, you could maybe chime in on this, but what would you say? How does this differ from what Dave and what Kelly, are holding right now? What are the biggest
Yeah.
differences that you think?
There's, it's one of those things like I think we had mentioned that, Paul is kind of a progressive tinkerer, right? And so
Yep.
the 245 speaks to, so does 594, speaks to the scale length of it. So the 245 is the 24.5-inch, dual pickup, single cut, nod to that type of an instrument.
Yeah.
And yours looks like it's got a wraparound tailpiece there.
It does have the wrap. Yep.
So the 594 also refers to a scale length. So it's a slightly different scale length. There's been probably several iterations of pickups,
Yep.
throughout, but it's always it's like chasing that sound, a guitar that does the thing, and so the tunematic style, with the bridge and the tailpiece separate is more common on the 594, but both are just, it's a way to try and perfect what you're going for like a vintage sound in a more reliable modern instrument. So taking advantage of the modern build techniques that they can do to reliably build a modern instrument that's stable and holds that tune, but then the sound is instantly familiar.
That's
And so basically you kind of Mike's got one of the guitars where it started, and Dave's got where it currently is, and I think all of us are excited to see where it goes.
Show your
You've
guitar.
got a double cut. Yeah.
Do you have the double? Yeah, see, he's got the tailpiece too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
So there's
great.
for the most part, what if Dave and Kelly you guys can hold yours up, for the most part what you've got is roughly the same guitar. One's a single, one's a double, but they're
that's beautiful
from the
Kelly.
same family.
I love the finish on that, Kelly. That's great.
Yeah,
that's a pretty color.
That's the McCarty Sunburst, I think.
great.
Beautiful.
And that's what I think for me, and Kelly mentioned this earlier, just in describing the tone, it's like a great vintage guitar from the late 50s made by a company up in Kalamazoo. They had, those pickups were not super, super hot and tubby sounding. They were very clear and articulate. And I think that's what Paul has captured with these. There's that, and you were saying that familiar sound of that late 50s solid body Gibson kind of thing. It just has that in there. It's like except it's consistent. It's like every one of these is consistent and has that clarity in the sound. So
Yep. Awesome. Well, anything else? Thank you for playing, by the way. That it's great to hear in different contexts all the different tones.
Yeah.
Can we end with got any fun stories of being on tour, or a crazy session, or something fun that we can finish on?
I
You
don't
probably have a
know.
lot, so pick one.
I don't know.
How about a favorite story about each other? Mike, you got any dirt on Dave that we can hear?
Oh, great.
Well,
Don't
Dave's
tell
just
that one.
okay. So this is a story about Kelly. Dave and I worked together. Was it last week? And I was like, oh, man, I love Kelly, because Dave was telling me that Kelly got his hands on a new 594, and I said, man, Kelly, I just love that guy, and I looked over. He's such a great dude, but an awesome guitar player, and Kelly and I were working on a TV show thing. I don't know, maybe a month ago or more now, but I had his guitar coming through my in-ears, and it just sounded so amazing. It was like, I was like, what in the world is he doing? Like, and I look over, and he's playing like a $20 guitar. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like,
I'm exposed.
oh man, I'm in big trouble, man. No, but that's my like fun little story about Kelly, and it just all these guys. The instruments are super important. When you find something that works for you, like these PRS guitars do, it just brings to life the musicianship that's already present. And Kelly is a great example of that. It's in his fingers, it's in his soul and his heart, and he's able to really express himself in a beautiful way on this particular instrument he's holding now. But yeah, I just thought you guys would appreciate that. So
That's well said.
Man.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Mike. Man, I'm
yeah.
just
Oh,
glad to get to work with you two guys, Dave,
oh my gosh.
Mike. I mean,
Well,
it's always the highlight of my week, month, year.
yeah.
And I get to
here.
see you guys, and I look at the guitar just like you were talking about. I mean, these are incredible tools, but like Chet Atkins said, someone walked by and said, "Man, that guitar sounds good." He set it down and said, "What's it sound like now?" So
Yep.
Yeah.
that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say something to the kind of where we started before the webinar started. It's all about friendship. Kelly and I worked with a guy named Vic Clay about 30 years ago, and I was playing acoustic and Kelly was playing electric, and we have been friends ever since that day. Yeah. And when I met Mikey Payne, same thing. We worked on a session together. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing. We're all trying to make a living doing this, but we've all chose to put friendship above all that. And it's worked out that we've all been taken care of just fine. We've all been able to work. We've all been able to raise our families, and it hasn't been about trying to compete with each other. It's been about cheering for each other and being friends. And that's the biggest takeaway for me, living in Nashville and having friends that, will show up and hang out with us for an hour or so and just talk. And, so that's the biggest takeaway for me. That's not a very funny story, but it's a true story.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for your time. Before we wrap up, had a couple of points from our friends at PRS. One was, if somebody is interested out there in being a PRS artist, there's more than one way to do so. If you're local to us and are interested in being a local artist but represented by PRS, reach out to us at the shop here, and we can guide you through that process.
That's cool.
My name's Jeremie. I don't know if my email address is in the notes there, but I can maybe throw it on the chat if everybody can see my email address. I'll put.
That'd be great.
And I can guide through that process. Also, if you're watching this and you are a professional musician like these fine young gentlemen, and you're interested in being on the PRS roster, Bev is definitely the person to reach out to. I won't hand anybody else's email address out under this format, but again, maybe if you reach out to me and she gives me the thumbs up to go ahead, I'll pass your information along to her or get you guys in touch. But the PRS crew is amazing. I have met almost all of them, and I think it's one of the things that maybe, Paul's a genius, but he has surrounded himself with some fantastic individuals that are really easy and great to work with. And I think that's part of what makes PRS kind of a special company. And those folks are great. A lot of them are actually on supporting you guys. So
Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, great to see him. But I'll post, before we go, I'll post my email address in the chat. So if you're interested in that, don't exit yet. And then if you want to see the rebroadcast of this, we will try and post this all of the places where we posted the links to this webinar. So on the 5 Star Guitars link to this event, we'll post a link to the rebroadcast of it. We'll put it on our YouTube channel, and then our social media is at 5 Star Guitars. On Instagram, I believe we have the same handle on all social medias. So so once we clean up kind of the our technical difficulties in the front and get it posted, you should be able to find all in the same places you found your way here. You should be able to find your way to the rebroadcast of it. So
Great.
I will find my way to the chat. And once again, thank you guys so much for being so generous with your time.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes,
Thanks for
Jeremy.
having us.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great
Jeremy.
to see you again, Mike.
I know, man. It's great to see you.
Oh
I
man.
remember
If
that
any of
session.
you guys are up in the area, please hit me up.
What-
We'll go hang.
What city are you in at 5 Star?
Portland. Well, Beaverton is where the shop is at, but
Okay.
across the street from Portland. So Portland, Oregon is kind
That's
of
where
our
my
metro
wife's
area.
from.
So.
Awesome.
Well, no wonder.
See?
I knew I liked you.
What if she's
Yeah.
so awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having us on. It was great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
thank-
Jeremy.
Definitely.
And hi to everyone watching, Thanks
Yeah.
for checking it out.
And to everybody watching, thank you for joining in. Thanks for the great questions. And I am going to try and type and talk at the same time at 5starguitars.com. That's my email address.
Cool.
I think that maybe just went to all panelists. Nate, can you send that can you post that to?
I see it.
Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much. Thank you to
Yeah.
PRS for
Thanks,
supporting and
Bev.
putting this on. Thank
Yeah.
you, Bev. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bev.
James.
Thanks,
And,
Thank you.
James.
Nate, for moderating.
Thanks, Dave, Mike, Jeremy.
Oh, man.
All right.
Much love to
You're
you
awesome.
guys.
Great. Thanks,
Love
guys.
you guys. I'll
Love
see
you.
you
Thank you
soon.
guys. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.